I received these 3 amazing books from Meteor, and in today's video I'll share all my thoughts and considerations about these 3 amazing books here. And I even crochet some characters because I want this review to be as fair as possible. I received lots of questions both here on my YouTube channel and also on my Instagram account about these books. So today I'm going to answer all of your questions, and I will also share the considerations I have regarding some characteristics of these books. If I were you, I would stay until the end of this video because, well, the last book that I'm going to share with you has some really funny story, and I am pretty sure you're going to laugh a lot when I share it with you. So just stay with me until the end of this video because you will not regret. Hey guys, if you're new here in the channel, I am Bianca from Crocheniacs, and I received these books from Meteor, and for the past few months I've been analyzing all the possible details from these books, analyzing all these amazing cuties here so I could give you a proper feedback. And I will share all there is to know, like the amount of photos for each pattern, what do I think about the explanation for some detailed parts from the amigurumis. I will also share if the book is suitable for beginners, which is something that many people asked me, which characters are more beginner friendly, and also how much do these books cost. So again, all these questions that I am answering today are based on the messages that I received from you, both in the community page and also on Instagram. So thank you a lot for participating on the poll and always engaging with me here in YouTube. But before we jump into these books, I have to take this chance to talk about my own book. Yeah guys, this is amazing. I know, I am super happy to share it. I have already shared this great news on my Instagram account, but now it's the first time that I'm talking about it here on YouTube. And this is my book in collaboration with Fresh Verlag. It's amazing. The book is only available in German, and I will leave the link here in the description so you can check it later. It is amazing. It is an honor, and I'm super happy to have it. And yeah, it's amazing. I get very emotional every time I look at it. It's so beautiful, and yeah, that's me here. Look, yeah, I'm super proud of it, and I'll leave the link for it in the description. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is Aquatic Amigurumi by Natasha. And I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her surname. Oh my god, but Natasha is easy for me. Okay, the first thing that catches my attention when I look at this book is the colors. I mean, look at the amount of beautiful colors from this amigurumis. It's amazing. I mean, it really stands out, and I think it was her intention because I have already seen this book before on Instagram, and I will talk about the amigurumi that I crocheted later because I have it here with me. Because when you see it at first sight, the amount of colors, and beautiful colors actually, is what stands out for me. And I know I started talking about the colors, but it's also written here in the first pages, like Aquatic Amigurumi, make a colorful splash in your yarn stash. So I believe being colorful was really one of the main goals with the characters from this book. So there are 15 different amigurumi patterns in this book, and something that I really liked about it is that you can see, like in the first pages, I guess page 5, I mean, you can take a look at all the amigurumi patterns that the book teaches. So it is amazing. You can see all of them here. They are very beautiful. If you take a look at the website, you can see the pictures of all the amigurumis too. Although it's not here in the cover, you can see, of course, all the toys, all the amigurumis before you purchase the book. But having them here placed in the first page is something great, especially because you can see that there is a correspondence between the picture and the page where the instructions for the amigurumi starts. So for example, you want to crochet, I don't know, a seagull. And you can look at the picture of the seagull here, and okay, it's a page 110. So you go there to the page and you can crochet your toy, and it's already in the beginning of the book, which is something helpful when we are crocheting and we have a big book like this. Another interesting thing, especially if you're a beginner and you're afraid of purchasing one of those books and you will not understand things, don't worry, because in the first pages, I mean in the first 9 pages of the book, they teach all the stitches required to crochet the toys. So this is amazing, especially for beginners again. There are pictures, instructions, written instructions, and also QR codes, so you can scan and check for the videos and learn how to do all the stitches. So it is amazing. It is also written here instructions for choosing the yarn appropriately, the crochet hook that was used, and also UK and US terminology, because this was something that you asked me to talk about. So don't worry, because there is a table here in the book, like in the first pages, and it's written like the UK yarn type and US yarn type terminology. This was one of your questions, and don't worry because it's here in the book. Another thing that you should not worry about is that for each pattern it is written the level of difficulty. So if you're a beginner, you can check for the patterns that are designed for beginners, intermediate, or advanced level. I really believe it's important, especially if you are a beginner again, so you can choose the amigurumis that you're going to crochet according to your knowledge. Something that you asked me, and I really liked about this book, they do not mention any specific yarn brand. Of course, they mention the yarn type they use, like sports or fingering, for example. So they mention the yarn type, but they do not mention the brand. And why do I like it so much? Because one of the things that I strongly advocate here in the channel is that you should not focus on the yarn that the designer is using. Because I always see people like spending a huge amount of money trying to buy exactly the same yarn, exactly the same brand that they saw in the pattern or in the book, for example, that the designer chose. But we, and I will include myself in it, I always use the yarns that are easily available to me. When I was back in Brazil, the yarn that I used to use is Amigurumi from Círculo, because this one was so easy for me to find. I mean, in local stores, in the stores like that were 300 meters from my home, so it was very easy for me to find. But now that I'm living here in Finland, Círculo exists in Europe. It is possible to find, but it's more expensive and it's not that common here. So it does not make sense for me to keep trying to use the same yarn. I have to use what is available here for me. And that's why I always say that you have to learn how to substitute the yarn correctly. There is a playlist here in my channel with lots of tips regarding yarn. I guess the name of the playlist is like Best Yarn for Amigurumi, something like that, because I created lots of videos giving my review and honest opinion about different yarns for Amigurumi, and I always share all the pros and cons regarding this brands, these yarns. And there is one specific video where I teach how to substitute the yarn correctly, and this video is like super important. Okay, and moving on to the book, because I always get too excited when I talk about yarn. This is a topic that I really like. I think you already know that. If you're not new here in the channel, you probably realize that this is something that I love talking about. But going back to the book now, the last thing that I want to share with you is a very subtle detail, and I don't know if people usually realize those things, but since I also design my patterns and I'm always thinking like, how can I make it more didactic for the people to understand the techniques? How can I make this easier for them to understand? So I am constantly thinking about this stuff. I am a teacher, you know that, so teacher's brain, right? It never stops. But okay, something that really caught my attention in this book is how they correlate the image to the text. It's very subtle, it does not distract you, and when you're crocheting and you're not sure like what's the next step that you should take, you just see like a small ball like indicating a number like 14, I don't know, and then you correlate to the image, and it's very easy to see. I loved it. You're probably asking yourself which amigurumi I crocheted, and I crocheted this fish here. I love this amigurumi. This was the first amigurumi that I saw from Natasha, and I loved it. It was so cute, and I love how colorful he is. And I was like, okay, if one day I get this book, this will be my amigurumi. And that's why I crocheted him. It looks very cute. This is an intermediate pattern, but it's very well explained. All the details of the amigurumi are there in the book, so you won't, I strongly believe that you will not face any difficulties crocheting this amigurumi. I was questioning myself about this part. I was like, oh, I guess this will be difficult, but it's so well explained, it was not difficult at all. So don't feel discouraged, okay? So that's my fish from the Aquatic Amigurumi from Natasha. And now let's move on to the second book. Actually, no, before I forget, the book has 136 pages, because this was something that you also asked me, and it costs, the price is here in the back, 17.50 euros. They also share the price like in US dollars, Canadian dollars, but you can check it on Amazon. I will leave the link for all these books here in the description, so in case you get interested in buying them, I'll leave the link here and you can check the prices for your country. But in the book, it's written here 17.50 euros. That's it. Now we move on to the next book. The second book I am going to talk to you today is this one, Amigurumi Treasures 2 by Irina Lee. And I chose this Amigurumi Treasures 2 for one specific reason. There was one amigurumi that I really wanted to crochet, and of course I will show you in a few minutes. But I love the characters of this book. I have to be honest, if I had more time I would crochet like quite a few. This book is great. This book also contains 15 characters, and again, following like a very similar characteristic to the first one from Natasha that I already talked about. The characters are also presented in the first pages, and as you can see here, the 15 characters, and they also place the page where the pattern starts. So for example, there is a very cute bee here, and you can check that it starts on page 20, for example. And again, this is something that I really like about these two books. It also follows the same idea with the instructions here in the first pages and QR codes, pictures showing how to do the stitches. So, because there are lots of instructions regarding the stitches required to crochet the amigurumis. They also indicate the level of difficulty of all the patterns, and there are lots of pictures. Okay, and something that it's special about this book, and I have to be completely honest, this was something that I loved because I also do it in my own patterns, and I was super happy when I saw this, is that they put instructions inside the pictures. I mean, for beginners, this is amazing because it's not only written like, I don't know, for example, place the eyes between rounds 10 and 11. Just an example. They show it also in the picture, and I don't know, the eyes are separated by 9 stitches, and they put like arrows indicating. It's so good and so didactic for beginners. I really enjoy this sort of explanation, and this book, they put this type of explanation in the pictures, and it is great. Something a bit different about this book is that they do indicate the yarn they use, and I didn't know the brand. I had to Google it because I didn't know it is new for me. The yarn brand that Irina Lee uses for these characters is called, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce it correctly, okay? But it's Crochea Deluxe Organic Cotton, and I don't know if it's Crochea. In Portuguese, I would just say Crochea. But just so you know, this is a fingering wave yarn, which is the yarn type that I like to crochet, so I'm very curious to test this yarn. I checked their website and they're from Denmark. I am super interested in testing it. Please let me know here in the comments if you have ever used this Crochea Deluxe yarn, because I am very curious to know who crocheted with this yarn and what are your impressions about it. And now you're probably curious to know which character I wanted to crochet so bad from this book, and let me show you guys. Look at this beautiful seahorse. It's gorgeous. I mean, his name is Mackenzie. Now I don't know the name of the fish, I just realized, but that's okay, I'm looking at it there. But this is Mackenzie, this is the name of the seahorse. In the book it's blue, but I decided to crochet in another color, and my husband decided the color. I always talk to you that he helps me with many decisions in Crocheniacs. He's very good at it, and he has like some nice ideas. Every time I don't know which color, or I don't know, things like that, he is the one who helps me with this stuff. and I was stuck with the seahorse. I was like, I don't know, I'm going to use green or blue, and he decided me to choose the colors for the seahorse, and it turned out amazing, as you can see. I love this mane. This is one of the most beautiful parts of the seahorse. You can see it like this. Beautiful, right? I'm in love with it. But I have to share something interesting with you. I don't like sewing, and I think most of crocheters don't like sewing at all. This is something that we have in common. It's quite rare to find someone who enjoys this part of the amigurumi, but that's okay. So I made the mane. I crocheted this part, and I was like, my goodness, how am I going to crochet it? Don't worry, because the book explains how to crochet. There are lots of pictures and instructions, but I was feeling a bit lazy and I didn't want to sew it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to glue this part, and that's it. Because I thought it would be too complicated to sew it. And I was 100% wrong. And thank God I didn't glue, because the bad side of gluing stuff is that if you put the glue in the wrong place, well, it messes with your amigurumi, and sometimes it can create stains in the fabric, which is awful, and there is no turning back. So in this case, I was so worried that something would go wrong while gluing that I was, okay, I will sew it in another moment. I decided to do it like the other day when I was a bit more relaxed, and it was the best decision ever. It didn't take me that long. Actually, sewing this mane was easier than I thought, faster than I was expecting, and it turned out very, very beautiful. So don't feel discouraged. Again, if you crochet this part and you look at it like, my goodness, how am I going to do that? Don't worry, it's not that difficult. It will not take that long, and the result is totally worth it. So this is my Mackenzie, the seahorse, and I love him. I am getting so excited talking about these books that I don't remember if I mentioned it before, but Mackenzie is also an intermediate pattern, the difficulty level, in case you are curious to know. This book has 136 pages, and it costs, in euros again, 16.50 euros. And the link is also in the description, so you can check it later. And this is the second book. Now we move on to the third book. Okay guys, but before we go to the last book review, which I have so much to talk about and some funny stories too that I'm pretty sure you're going to laugh quite a bit. If you're still here with me in this tutorial, just write the word book in the description so I know that you're following this review and you're enjoying everything I'm sharing with you. Also, remember to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so I can keep creating these tutorials, videos, and free patterns for you. This is a way you can support my work, and you can also subscribe to my email list, which I also leave the link in the description, so you can always get to know the behind the scenes of a crochet designer and crochet business, and you can also help me deciding on future videos for the channel as well. And the third book that I'm going to talk about is Pica Pau 3 from Ian. This book is amazing. I know I say that all the books are amazing, but they are indeed, and I cannot choose which one I like the most. They have different characteristics, different characters, and as I said before, I wish I had time to crochet them all because they are great. But this one is also amazing, and there was a reason again for me to choose this book. There is one specific character that I wanted to crochet, and it's connected to the story that I told you before, the funny story that I'm sharing. This book is a bit different from the other two that I already talked about. First things first, this book contains 20 characters, instructions for 20 characters, while the others contained 15 each. So it is a bit bigger. It has 174 pages, and it's also a bit more expensive, but I'll talk about it in the end. So yeah, the format, the style is also a bit different. And there are some special things about this book that I liked so much, and I was so happy to see these instructions here because these instructions are exactly what I say here in the channel, and that's why I was so happy. I was like, yay, I'm not alone in this world. Another designer thinks the same way as I do. And why am I saying it? And I'll share it with you. You see that I'm getting excited like every time I share a new thing. I mean, this book, and I'm taking a look at it so I won't forget any details. It encourages you when crocheting the patterns, which is something that I always talk about. Sometimes people read the patterns, they interpret in a way, and they just crochet and think that's it. Sometimes when we are crocheting, we have to go back. We do something, it's not 100% the way it's supposed to be. You have to go back. You have to be mindful about it, and that's okay. It's part of the process. It's art, and you have to go back, see your mistake, and learn from it, and move on, so your amigurumi will always be better. And that's the only way we can improve, not only in amigurumis, but everything that we do. If you learn to play an instrument, for example, and just out of curiosity, I know how to play the drums, and not very well, but I started to play the drums like years ago, and for one moment of my life, I dedicated like quite a while. I dedicated quite a long time to improve my skills while playing the drums, and it's not that easy. You have to keep practicing and practicing, and after months like practicing the same song, in the end you still commit mistakes. But it's way better than the first attempt when you were learning how to play this song. This idea is basically the same thing that happens when we are crocheting. Sometimes you crochet a doll and for the first time it's not that perfect, but then you do it again and it's better in the second time. And if you do it for, I don't know, a third time, it will be perfect. But we always learn something out of it. That's my idea when I'm talking about, and that's my idea when I'm talking about being patient with crochet, which is something that is also here in the book. It also talks about different stitch types if you are crocheting like the V or the X, the yarn under and yarn over. And if you don't know what it is, I will leave the link for my video here in the channel where I explain the difference between these two stitches, and I give all the pros and cons for both stitches as well. One of my favorite texts from this book is when they talk about tension. Of course, there is a video here in the channel where I talk about crochet tension, and I give tips to improve tension. I share my experience with crochet tension, and it's exactly, and really guys, I got this book in January, middle January this year. As I said, I'm with these books for like a month, and the video I recorded last year, and I didn't know about these instructions here from the book. It's really a coincidence, but it's exactly what I share with you. Crochet tension is something difficult to explain sometimes, but it can be improved. It's just like the comparison that I just did with music and the story that I shared when I was learning how to play the drums. After you practice, you get better playing the drums, and the same things happen with crochet, and that's why I liked this explanation of crochet tension so much. There are lots of instructions here in the book regarding the stitches, so if you don't know, I don't know how to do the magic ring or half double crochet, all the stitches required for the characters are also here in the book. It contains lots of explanations like how to do the embroidery, how to join pieces of amigurumi, like how to sew them. It's great, and it contains also a table regarding the terminology for the abbreviations like chain, stitches, double crochet, and all the stitches required. And so it's great, it's great. There are lots of instructions. The characters themselves are not placed in the beginning of the book. It's like after 40 pages. I usually prefer when I have all the characters displayed in the first page, but that's okay. It's not that difficult if you have to go back to, I don't know, page 40 something to check the characters, and they are all here. I know you're curious to know what's the story behind the amigurumi that I talked since the first minute of this video. First things first, the amigurumi I crocheted is this beautiful chicken here. It was a bit challenging, I have to admit. This is considered an intermediate level according to the book, but there were some techniques here that I think are not for intermediate level. It was kind of difficult to do some parts. It's really well explained, but it's a bit challenging. So if you're a beginner, I would not recommend to do that. If you're like a new intermediate crocheter, I guess you would face some difficulties, but you can manage to do it. But this chicken is so beautiful, and I love chickens. Now I will share my story with you, which is pretty funny. And just so you know, I named my chickens after Saint Seiya, the Knights of the Zodiac characters, because this was an animation that I really liked. I know you're probably thinking about my age, and I am not that young anymore. Yeah, this is an old animation, but that's okay. I don't care. I loved this animation, as I said, and my favorite character was Swan Yoga, and that's why I named my favorite chicken after this character. And as I said, I named my chickens after the characters from Saint Seiya. And this is the funny story that I had to share. I loved my chicken. She used to eat corn like in my hand. It was super cute. She was very beautiful. A big chicken. She was gorgeous, and I wanted to crochet a chicken so I could remind myself of her every time I look at it. And now I have this beautiful amigurumi here in my house, in my drawer, and every time I look at her, I remember my favorite chicken. And this is one of the greatest things that crochet can give to us. You can crochet characters that you like, characters that remind you of some specific moment of your life, and you can eternalize these moments with your amigurumis. Great, right? I know I already mentioned it before, but just a reminder, the book has 174 pages and it costs 19.50 euros. The link is also in the description, so you can check it later. And that's it for the review of these 3 amazing books. It was an honor, like a huge pleasure, to crochet the characters from this book. And I would love to hear from you if you have ever crocheted amigurumis from these books, if you have one of them with you, and if not, which one are you interested in start crocheting right now? Thanks so much for watching, and I'll leave you this other video here because I am pretty sure you're going to like it too.